dear fountain pen, ink, and paper lovers out there. I am back finally with one of the things I meant to show you for quite some time. You probably can imagine if you yourself are into pens and inks and paper, we want to be organized. We want to explore our inks. We want to explore paper. And we want to use our pens. I mean, we do it in daily life, most likely for letters, journaling, whatever it is. But do we write down what we've done? Do we write down when we purchase a new pen, a new ink? How do we sample these things? Do we put it all in a book? Do we put it in a bullet journal? What do we do? Do you just write your letters and keep your notes and maybe your knitting journal, or do you keep other notes? For me, what's the case is I really like A5 notebooks, and I have found that if I really don't want them as just one slim notebook, I can make a cover. I can do some bookbinding and combine some books, and I have done that in the past for some knitting notebooks. And I will most likely, I'm actually planning to do the same for my travel journals. Now, you may wonder, how do you keep all of your notebooks? And I do have a cover, which I'm gonna grab right now. This one is from a company called Sun Leaves, and I've ordered it a good while ago from was that still Russia or the Ukraine? Far away, but I really, really loved the leather, and I have it. I have the notebooks I have in here are 3, and this actually lives in my drawer. This one is the bucket list, contains lists about the vacations that we have been on, and also the albums that I have made, because I do digital albums. So every year gets one page for the vacations, and then I keep track of, have I made a digital album, or do I still need to do that? I can see that on the other page. So then I used to be a really good podcaster and write down everything I've talked about on the knitting podcast especially, but I'm actually not doing that anymore. Just the notebook is still here. I used to belong to a book club, and I decorated the cover for the notebook, and I kept notes of books I was reading and books we read with the book club. But this also has kind of been quite neglected since the book club is not happening anymore. Killed by the pandemic, as many other things, I'm sure. I mean, if I'm not talking about the loss of people, but I'm talking about the events and the community events, especially. Yeah, the last one is an address book that I use mainly for my fiber and my ink friends, and so this, of course, is nothing that I will open for you. Also cover decorated by me, and like I may have mentioned or not before, this lives in one of the drawers of my computer desk over there. Then I was wondering, I have a lot of notebooks. How do I keep these to have them handy? I didn't want to all put them in a cover like I showed you, but I wanted to have them accessible, quickly accessible, and easily accessible. So I had a fabulous idea. I have grabbed this wooden box, and in itself it's already been quite heavy, and it fits perfectly. These are all of the books, the notebooks that I currently use. And I've been thinking about what am I going to show you on the desk, at the desk, and what am I going to show you on camera, like this. But I think it's really going to be easier to do it at the desk. And some of it is ink and pen related, some of it is journaling, some of it is ink exploration, and others are just things like, this is a garden journal where I write down some stuff about our pathetically bad garden. Yes, and oh yes, these are the ones that I will show you right now, because they're not tremendously interesting to go over at the desk. So here, Garden Journal, a larger book that was a gift from my German pen friend Jutta. And these two are Japanese notebooks. And oh yeah, this one was an Apica, and this one another brand that I can't recall right now. But I used to transcribe all of the letters that I was sending out. I do not do that anymore, but I used to. I just can't manage anymore because I write too many letters. But I've got to say I felt like I write a lot about my life, and I journal less than I write in letters. And so I thought, I'm going to be happy to have these memories that I'm sending out to friends also for myself, because I mean, how much can we actually remember and process with our brains? Definitely not everything. And it turned out that I really, really also enjoyed the process of just writing and then like seeing the writing on the pages and filling up the notebook like this. It's just pretty. Yes, that's that. And I will talk about everything else at the desk. Hello. Here is the desk view of the box of notebooks from above. I'm going to tip it a little bit so you can better see what I'm talking about. Yes. And let's move the box out of the way. And I have brought the garden journal in case you wonder, what the heck does she write in there? I found these, and these are the tags from our 2 fruit trees in the backyard. And so I thought I keep those so I know. And I write down when we have harvested some peaches, or like here, when the lilacs bloomed. Oh my gosh, I did not write down anything in 2023, and that's how we roll, and that's okay. Beautiful notebook. Nostalgia. And I, of course, decorated the cover, as you can imagine, as I do with all of my notebooks. Next is this, which I love. It's a small size, and I wrote down, and this is from 2021, where I wanted to write down stuff about a weight loss journey that I wanted to embark on with my brother, but alas, we failed. Not not only because I cannot run right now, but also because I love to eat, and that's just the way it is. Small notebook, as you can tell. I'm not sure what this size is called. A6 maybe. Then I have this. I have to say I needed this book. This I started after my mother had passed away. And I've kept some personal notes when I wanted to talk to her, and when I wrote down stuff about when I got mail in her honor to comfort me, or flowers, or whatever. I didn't want to forget any of it, and I know I was a mess, so I needed this, and it's a treasure to keep. As you can see, I love to decorate my covers. I probably showed you this one before. The notebook Nostalgia was a gift from my local friend Lisa, and I sewed in this clear pouch for some memorabilia from Paris for my trip. And then I just started doing pages like this. And when I decorate my stationery, I use watercolors, but watercolor splashes on Tomoe River paper. But here I started using ink with a paintbrush. And I'm adding whatever stickers I feel like, as well as washi tape. And this was one from Simone. And then I do whatever the heck I feel like right here. Yes, a random ink sample. And I used to be very boring and just write, but now I'm a little bit more branching out a little, I should say. Next is a notebook that I actually made with this graph paper. That was I think this was loose sheets, and I gave them a cover. I sewed it with the sewing machine in the center, and that's why it does not really have a lot of pages, which I regret. So sometimes I do printouts with my yarn prices, or I write down whichever colorways I bring to events, and I write it down, and sometimes I don't. So, yeah. That's it. And here's the notes about some fleeces that I purchased with my friend Debbie. And I love this cover. I used some paper from a vintage knitting magazine. And then, of course, this typed out, printed out. Yep. Next is my book of fountain pens and jewelry news, where I write down when I purchase something that I just want to keep a quick note of, and so I do that in here. This was fairly new. I only started this book in 2023, and I didn't even fill in all of the pens yet. I did not fill in the pens that I purchased in Germany that I showed you recently. And then here are kind of like two more or less fails. This is something that I started at some point where I wanted to keep track of letters that I'm sending out, and occasionally I put in I put in a cover, or when someone sent me an ink sample, I wrote it down here, or ink samples. But I did it as in and out, but I just don't, it wasn't that practical. I don't know. I'm not doing this anymore. Not really. Even though I love the notebook, it's an old vintage German school notebook for an elementary school. Yet again, A5 size. Here's another one which I started to write down information about my friends. Yes, I'm stalking you. No, not at all. Don't be afraid. I write down things about my friends, like their shoe size, in case I ever want to knit them socks, or their favorite color, in case I want to send them ink samples or knit them a pair of socks in their favorite color. And those are the notes that I keep in here. And I feel like oh yes, here you see, this is also a notebook that I have made myself with some random paper. Oh yes, I remember. It was this paper originally, but then I didn't even have enough pages, and so I added these. Yep. And for the cover, what did I use? I think this was a dust cover of a book. And I love to thrift, and so that's sometimes if I find a treasure that I don't care to keep in book form, then it gets chopped up and put into used for collaging. Now here is something that I've talked about in the past. It's a book that I started where I want to keep track of all of my bottles of ink, and where I want to write a sample. So I wanted a book that has numbered pages, and I knew that in the front I wanted to write down the ink that I have used, and I am transcribing from this book, Willa Cather, Death Comes for the Archbishop, because the location is in New Mexico. Right now, I'm still in Italy with my transcript. Don't ask me why I started on page 16. I wasn't sure how much I'm going to enjoy continuing with this book, so I wanted to give myself some more space. And also, don't ask me. Oh, yes, of course, because I started, the numbers are for the continuity on this book transcription. So all of these inks I own in bottles, and I wanted to write with them when they are in a pen with a broad nib. So I'm gonna do a little flip through with you. Sorry, I'm gonna rearrange myself here. Here we go. This is better. So I'm gonna read, in case you're one of the people who cannot read my handwriting. Pilot Iroshizuku Kuyaku. Color verse from Cali. Really my favorite purple so far of all times. Birmingham Pen Company, Petrified Wood. Birmingham Pen Company, Whiskey Rebellion Bourbon. And I don't know, I didn't say the pen that I've used, but in case you need that read from me, Pelican 400 NN with an oblique medium nib, vintage Cavecodia oblique broad. In case you wonder, the smudges, I do them with a little old knife. If you have not seen that, I've shown you in the past, so nothing fancy, just any knife will do if you like this. This is Mont Blanc Lavender Purple, and it is in my Lamy All-Star Tourmaline. You've seen this pen many times. You've seen it inked with this ink, and you see how absolutely stunning this ink is. Sailor, 50 States, Virginia, in my Lamy 2000, double broad oblique, lots of sheen, and just beautiful in writing. Omas green in the Omas 360 Blue Royale Celluloid with a medium nib. And here Omas Sepia in the Omas Paragon Bronze with a broad nib. Birmingham Pen Company Armadillo in a Twisby Eco with a B nib. Birmingham Pen Company Waterfront Dusk in a fake Mont Blanc with a double broad nib. I mean, I call it a double broad. I think there's no marking on the pen. Birmingham Pen Company, the Green Weenie in a Faber-Castell 10 with a broad nib. And here another Birmingham Pen Company, the Pittsburgh Aviary Violet Starling in a Parker 45 stainless steel. I think they're called flighters, with a broad oblique nib. One of my favorite greens of all times, Rohrer und Klingner Altgoldgrün in a Pelikan M800 oblique broad nib. And you've seen the pen. Right now I have it inked with a different ink. The green was not matching the pen, this one. So I had to change that. I think I drained it. This is Online Brown, and I put it in a pen that a friend had gifted me, and it has a 0.8 stub. And yeah, that's the ink that the pen came with. And then we have this. I can truly call this my all-time favorite green, and it's also connected to great memories, great location, and just really a fun trip. And so this is Papier Plume Moss Green. So you can tell I love these dirty greens if you want to see the comparison. And I have an all-metal Rotring 600, and that had a double broad nib, but I don't know, look at that. Didn't like I didn't like that the flow was inconsistent. Yeah. Next was Pilot Iroshizuku Fuyugaki. I bought a small 15 ml bottle in Paris and put it in a new to me pen, the Pelikan 400 NN brown with a double broad oblique nib. I showed this in my last currently inked video, and I told you guys that it was Momiji, but then look what happened. I looked at it and I thought, Momiji, look at all the sheen here. Wonderful, beautiful. Then I started writing, and then I'm like, this has so much more orange. And I thought, what happened here? That's not this ink. So at some point I messed up. And when you hold these next to each other, you see that the Momiji has a lot more pink and has a green sheen. while the Fuyugaki is definitely more leaning toward orange, and I can barely see any sheen, but a lot of beautiful shading. Yep. So I messed up my page sequence and ripped out the page. It doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world, but I thought it was really interesting. And that's where I am in this book. I'm going to keep this in the back for now and move this over. Got to see what I'm doing next. And I did not show you these books, which are sitting on the shelf above the table where you saw me standing. This way, this way, this way, this way. Yes. These are some other dear to me books where it's really all about keeping track of inks and making sure I know what I have and which samples come from whom. And this little one is really, yeah, these are those books, but this one is a playbook. Whenever I have an ink in a syringe to fill a pen, then I'm squirting some ink on the page and then I write which pen I use it in. So right here you see so I filled a cartridge to put in my vintage Krone pen with an M nib. And this was a Birmingham Pen Company ink, Fox Squirrel from Casey. And I played with this in April of last year. And this is just really very random. Sometimes I keep the inks in sequence. Sometimes I write something with a pen, but maybe I filled an ink sample to send to a friend here, maybe. And that's why I didn't put it in a pen. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's gorgeous. Then you go through it. You have it drying and then you put the book away and you forget. And then you're like, oh my God, these are fabulous. It's just really fun to go through from time to time. Why I did not write down what it is, I do not know. This must be Frivolous Lime. That was also a sweet gift from Miss Turtle. This is really just so much fun. Oh my gosh, this was an ink that I really enjoyed. I had a sample from Ramona. Winter Spice. Look at the shimmer and the sheen on this. Wow. No, more shimmer than anything else. Yep. Yeah, you get the picture of this. So the pages are numbered. It's a Leuchtturm book, and I try to keep track of what I've used in the front, but is it that important? Not really. So, oh my gosh, I have loved this. And I ordered it, and then it was a fake website. So I did get my money back, I must say. Yeah. Okay, and then, where do I start? Inkopedia. So some people are brilliant and keep a spreadsheet of their inks. That wouldn't be me. I am really bad at that kind of stuff. So I grabbed a notebook, a German A5 notebook. I decorated my cover with all kinds of random scraps of paper, did a nice collage. And let me move these. And then I kind of kept the inks sorted by alphabet. I mean, the companies by alphabet. No Ackerman. Oh, these are, oh, wait. I need to tell you, these are all the inks that I own a bottle of. And so whenever I put something into a pen, I write down. I put an inky sample next to it. Yeah. So you get my drift. I used to put the samples in the back. Do I still do that? Oh, yes, I do. Okay, I still do that. Yes, but I also started keeping better track of my ink samples in this notebook. Again, gifts from friends. Sticker that I got from Kirk of Penrealm. This done by me. This I think I got from a pen friend, and this also from a pen friend. Pens. So what do we have? All right. Here are my samples, and yet again I keep track with a knife smudge. Yep. And of course I write down if all of these I've written, the sample is, slow down, cowgirl. So next to it, I write with this ink. If I put it in a pen, I write down the pen that I'm using. Everything else is dipped. Mostly I write it down, dipped. Yes, here I haven't written it down, and here I haven't, so I'm not very consistent, but that works. And like here, I filled it into a pen, and oh yes, and then I emptied it right away because it was not a good combo. Yeah. And this way I just can look up, oh yes, I won this from Erin of the Inky podcast, The Joy in Pens and Paper. It was Red Robin. I guess she didn't like the color. I loved it. Yes, and like I said, all the smudges, yet again, done with my little knife. Next is something super special. I have a pen friend in Germany who made this book for me with all of her inks in bottles, and that was a very, very sweet gift. I'm going to skip over her intro because it's personal. So these are all of her inks. And this is Tomoe River paper, And we found, actually, I have gotten the same notebooks from Etsy. I think we found a store in Italy that does these glue-bound books. And so she did this for me. Such a nice and kind and sweet. I don't even know what to say. It's just it was a gift that blew me away, as you can imagine. And she did a much better job than me, because then I have put all of my inks in bottles also in here, because I had to. So I also divided them up by brand, but this, for example, is a page where I have all kinds of companies mixed, and as well as here. Yeah, these are the bottles. Yeah, so every time I buy a bottle, I keep it in this, I keep track of it in this book. And so it's also kind of nice for a quick color reference. Hey, I need a blue or whatever, and I can flip through. Love it. Yeah, and I want to thank my friend for inspiring me. This is so lovely. Yeah, what a great idea, and just amazing on the Tomoe River paper. This, by the way, is also Tomoe River paper, the one where I keep track of my ink samples. But if you notice, this is a lot more crinkly. This is the new Tomoe River paper. And I'm just still sad that we don't have the old one anymore. Yep. And this is it. These are all of my notebooks. I hope you've enjoyed this little piece of craziness of somebody who loves to dive into the inks deeply. And until I see you again, hopefully soon, bye-bye. Happy writing.